Hello and welcome to my video. Right, this is one that I did a month ago. It's now dry enough for me to work on it a bit, so I think so. Yeah, it all seems quite dry. And so yeah, I'll be giving this to a patron via my Patreon page. And this is also one that I'll be giving away to a patron. Now, the thing about this one is I did something on this and a lot of people seem to like it. So I'm just going to put the focus on auto so you can see it. So if you look, am I going to get any of this on me? Right, let's try and do this without getting paint all over my clothing. This effect here, and I was trying to get the feeling that there's a hill and it goes down, then there's a bit of landscape in the distance, which can often look quite blue like that. So I thought, it's so easy to actually do that, and people have said they like it, so I'm going to show you how to do it on this painting. So we're going to have a bit of land over there in the distance that's so far away it's turning blue. That's the idea. Now to get that effect, I'll be using blue. And I just want to show you something else actually before I really start. I'll show you my palette. This is left over from a video I did the other day. Okay, so it's still quite fluid. I can use the colours that are on this, but I just want to show you something here. When you're mixing on a palette, look for the little landscapes that appear on the palette. Do you see it? I wonder whether you know what I'm getting at. All this texture and all this stuff in here, as you're pushing paint around, can give you ideas for compositions, so you can sort of sculpt the palette a little bit. I'm doing this sideways without seeing what I'm doing, but there you go. There's it sort of, you can build up landscapes without even painting landscapes. Right, so ultramarine blue is an amazing blue. First of all, let's get that sorted out. It's absolutely incredible blue. I think it's the closest thing you can get to lapis lazuli without using lapis lazuli, which is very expensive stuff. So I'm mixing that with a bit of royal blue just to sort of get going, really. It's quite fluid, but you know, I can sort of flick this at the painting, it won't come off. It's not dripping anywhere. So what I want to do is give the feeling of another bit of landscape over there. Right, so I'm going to zoom in a bit on that. It's actually quite nice as it is, but it's not quite what I want. I can be incredibly fussy. Right, so how would I go about doing that? Oh, I should say also I'm going to change the trees a little bit as well, because at the moment it's a bit like a sort of flat sausage across the landscape. Now, over on the left-hand side, do you ever get days when you get everything in the wrong order? Right, let me show you the left-hand side. I've already sort of done it there. See that? That's the effect I'm after. So the trick is, if you've used ultramarine in the sky, you don't want it to be exactly the same colour, or if you do, there has to be a dividing line between the two tones. So this is dark, then it's light, then it's dark. That does make sense. So you've got to put textures on it that tell people it's land, not sky. So that's what I'm going to try and do over on the other side of the painting. Go back over there. And let's try and get the extreme width. Whoop, too far. I decided to get this video done reasonably quickly. I'm not going to do too much editing and cutting. So if you don't mind me moving the camera around a bit, that's a great help. Okay, right, so imagine then you're up on a hill. Could be anywhere you like. I don't know where this is. It's very similar to, I suppose, places in Yorkshire. It could be Yorkshire, it could actually be France. It could be Scotland, any of the, you know, it's got that sort of slightly moorish. When I say moorish, I don't mean the type of thing you want to eat. I mean like a moor where heather grows. Okay, so the first thing to do is have no fear. Just put it on. So there's a blue, a bluish grey. So if I just put that on there, endeavouring to keep out of the way, I'll make the top slightly more interesting. So that comes down to the land. Now, what I want to do, I want the land in the foot to disappear over a hill. So the best way to do that, I mean, at the moment it fades into that landscape. I don't want it to fade into it. I want us to know that there's a ridge here, so I need to sharpen the edge just a bit, like that. So now we're aware that there's a bit of a dip. That's the idea anyway. And it may look like it, it may not. At the moment it actually does look quite nice. So what do I want to do? Indeed, I'm glad you asked. What do I want to do? Right, so let's introduce a tiny bit more oil, not too much, don't want it, but still at the point where, you know, it's not going to drip. I want to fade the top into the sky a little bit. It was quite nice as a sort of rocky outcrop, but not exactly what I'm after. I can change it into a rocky outcrop, but, and you could too. It's not that difficult. I want it to fade up into the sky a bit. Let's see what happens when we do this. So this is how simple some of these techniques are. You see, put the paint on, push it around a bit, scumble the top, take it into the sky, and see, it starts to go back even further. I like that little bit of light there. That's a trick that most, not necessarily most, a lot of painters use that. Focuses the eye in there, in that particular part of the painting. So there we are, we've got some distance. Now, if I put some lines in it, you have to then ask yourself, what do those lines become? Do they become field boundaries? Or do they just stay as rather clumsy looking lines? That's entirely up to you. And if they look like clumsy lines, declumsicate them. Do you know, I do like to invent at least one word per video. Declumsicate. I have just practiced declumsification, so it looks more refined. Where does it come from? It's weird, isn't it? Okay, so there's a few more lines. Let's have one or two that go across that way, like so. Only for the sole reason to see what it looks like. Not exactly enamoured with it, so I'll break it up. Let's put something there though. Okay, so we've got a nice bit of Hillary in the background. Okay, that is a nice bit of distance. Right, pleased with that. I'll do a little bit on the sky as well, but the next thing I'm going to do, before I get to the main trees, is a tiny bit, well, unless I change my mind in the next 30 seconds. Will I change my mind? This is only a part 2 video, you see, so it's not going to be particularly long. I just want to sort of get the painting finished so that I can send it out to whoever's going to get it. And I don't know do I know who's getting this one? I don't think I do. You never know, could be you. Become a patron, could be you. But you need to do it quickly because I'll be making my mind up in the next, I don't know, next week I suppose. Right, so let's just do a little bit of tickling on that edge. When I first started painting, and well, I painted before I went to college, but before I went to college, when I would paint something like that, I would tend to paint a hard line. Now you can do that if you want, but in paintings it works better when you have a slightly feathered line. Pull the two colours together, you know. Doesn't have to be not a lot of things in nature you see aren't actually crisp. Now this is where it gets to the this is the artistic license. Even if they are, they look better when they're not crisp. So artistic license is doing something to a painting that improves on nature. If you can improve on nature, no, it doesn't make sense, does it? That artistic license is there for the painting, not necessarily reality. That's the way I tend to think about it. Okay, so the foreground. Do I want to do anything to the foreground? I'm not sure what I do. I certainly want to do something to the trees. But before I do that, I'm going to, and it won't be much, it'll just be something to break up the giant caterpillar on the hill. Incidentally, if you saw my latest video, this is the same brush that I used for that. Was it a day ago? I don't know, a day or two ago. So it's still usable. I haven't cleaned it, I haven't done anything to it. Whatever colours are on this are going on the painting. And that, I'm convinced, is one of the things that makes paintings interesting. Different colours that you wouldn't imagine painting. So, however, having said that, I think I will break in a new brush. The only reason I'm going to do it is because I want to use white. If it was any other colour, I wouldn't bother. So, titanium white. As usual, the only one I use, the only one I can get. And all I'm going to do with this is put some on the sky so that I can, when I build up my tree, I can use it, push it into the sky. And almost no extra oil added. Because the thing about white I like is the whiteness. I don't, sorry my voice went. The thing I like about white is the whiteness. So if I put oil in it, it won't be as white, it'll be thinner. So we want to avoid that. Right, so here, all I'm going to do is, in my mind, I sort of know what shape the tree will be. So let's just put some white on here, and then I'll allow for the tree to fit in that shape there. Okay, now the reason I do it this way is because I want the edge of the tree to go soft, like that. That's a typical toneless type tree, soft-edged. If you have soft edges on your trees, it gives the feeling that the wind is blowing through them. So this white here, which I'll endeavour to make into an interesting sky, I've got some finger marks on the painting here. Now, you can't see them. And I'm not sure whether to leave them. No, I'm not going to leave them. I don't know whether I was picking it up or, you know, and I accidentally touched it, or whether I was showing you how to make clouds using your fingers. But anyway, I don't like it, so that's going to go. So let's just put that on there. Don't think about the shape of the clouds at the moment when you're doing this. Just put it on. Try to make as much of what you do almost unconscious. And by that I mean don't think about it too much, just do it. Now if I go on to these trees, because they're dry, I can wipe it off, but I probably won't. Not too much anyway. Right, so I need a largish brush just to soften that all a bit. When I said larger brush, it doesn't have to actually be much larger. This isn't the biggest brush. If I was doing the whole sky, I would use a bigger brush. But for what I'm doing here, it's not much white that I'm pushing around. So I'll just sort of blur that a bit. So we'll blur everything that I've done. There may be some other bits of cloud later. In fact, I'm pretty sure there will. There may even be another glazing stage. No, not. I don't mean another. There hasn't been any. There may be a glazing stage. So perhaps you can understand why video editors are so valuable. Right, sap green red ochre, and it gives you the, well, it gives you the colour of nature as I see it, not necessarily as you see it, but it works for me. So trees. Okay, we've got a nice little scoop. We can walk in there. See that light bit at the bottom, in the nestled in the trees? I'm going to zoom you in so you can see that. Okay. Right, so you can go in there. You could go in there and pitch your tent. Right, so I might add a little bit more contrast to that. I'm not sure yet, but it's quite nice. Compositionally, it's okay. One of the things about composition that I've always found interesting is where you take something that's really quite mundane. You know, let's face it. You're walking along through the countryside. You might not even look at this. You'd probably look at the view over there and the view over to the left. But would you actually look at the wood, you see? I see that as being really fascinating. No, I don't mean my painting is fascinating. I mean the fact that there's this bunch of trees in this configuration I find fascinating. Okay, so let's take the tree up. And let's make it just have a bit of a different shape. Soften the edges a bit. Probably needs a little bit more red ochre in it. Greens, basically, in landscapes don't look right unless they have red or brown. Otherwise, they look too green. So there we go. A little bit more brown in there. Don't make trees lollipop shaped. I'm sure you know what I mean. In fact, I'll tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to put a lump of foliage there so that we can have some tree trunky effects below it. And as you can see, it doesn't take a lot. Painting trees is actually quite well. It's all simple when you convince yourself that it is in fact simple. If you think it's hard, you know what will happen. I've said this on so many videos now. If you start thinking it's hard and that you might make a mistake, you probably might make a mistake. Try starting with the idea in your mind that actually it's actually simple. It's just getting your mind to agree with what happens at this end, you know. So you've got the processing plant up there, which is my head, and this is the machine shop. So my brain is saying, okay, just do that. That's all I'm doing. Just doing that, up and down, right? And I've got, you know, one end of the brush has got a little bit of red in it, one's got a bit of green. This is the green edge here. So I just touched it there, and you see there was some slightly darker green just there. Don't be afraid when that happens. If you want it to go the other way again, you just turn the brush around and just sort of knock it back a bit. If you want to put it in, turn the brush the other way, like so. Turn it around, get it lighter. Okay, so that little bit there is crying out to be trunked, trunked up. So the edges of trees, something I tell my students when I do Zoom classes, whenever they, at the end of the class, you see people show me their paintings, and I have to keep repeating, soften the edges of your trees. This is tonalism. We're doing tonalist paintings. it makes everything much more forgiving. Because your brain, you see, it can't help. It's sort of, as soon as you paint a picture or make a mark on a board or a canvas, your brain is starting to trying to rationalise what it's looking at. So when your brain tells you that it's convincing to look at, then you know you've got to where you want to be. Okay, let's have a little bit more just there. See, darker, turn it round, lighter. Okay, so I think the trees are getting slightly more adventurous. Am I going to do much to the sky? I don't know that I will. Or if I do, it'll be near the top of the painting, away from the trees. I might do something up the top. And do I even want to do anything with the foreground? The more I think about it, the more I think, no. Oh, I should say, I don't know whether you can hear, it's unbelievably hot in this room. It's quite warm in France at the moment, so I've got a fan going. I hope it's not coming out on the audio too badly anyway. I don't think it usually does. It's on a low setting, so it shouldn't make too much noise. Okay, my wife just came in. Sorry, it always makes me laugh. My wife just came in and asked me something, and I've lost the thread of what I was talking about. Yeah, oh, I know. I was thinking of doing something to the foreground, but I don't know that I really want to or need to. I think it's plain enough to send the viewer where I want them. I don't want them to linger in the foreground. I want you to look at the trees, the distant hills, and the sky. If anything, I might just add the tree trunks in there. So tree trunks in there and a bit of light on the ground just here. And then a tiny bit of, I don't know, we'll see how it goes, tiny bit of work on the sky. Not too much. Okay, for the tree trunks, I'm going to use a rigger. Now the question is, have I been a good boy and cleaned my riggers? You should always clean your riggers because it's not a big brush. Tree trunk colour over that sort of distance doesn't differ much from the colour of the foliage because it's semi-silhouetted against a light sky. So any subtleties, apart from, bright light hitting a trunk, which I can add in a minute if I want, it's going to look the same sort of tonal value. So let's just have one there that goes off across that way. You see, not too big and fat and chunky. Have one there. And just a hint of a twig or two. The thing to avoid is don't keep doing the letter Y everywhere. So in other words, don't do a trunk on a Y shape. This is where you have to sort of think about it a bit. If you do too many Ys in a painting, it looks like a bunch of Ys. Okay, so what you could do, you can cross them a bit. Take one across that way, pull one around that way, like so. And that's probably it for that. Don't need to do much more. I might add a light tree trunk just for the heck of it, and just to show you how you do it. Okay, so where the tree comes and disappears into the foliage, just soften it. And where it goes into the foliage at the top, same deal, soften it. Just so it doesn't just suddenly end. Becomes part of the rest of the tree. Right, so I'm going to use the same rigger. I'm going to clean it, but I'm not cleaning it in any kind of thinner. I'm just dipping it in oil and wiping off the excess. So it's as clean as it needs to be, and then a little bit of, tiny bit of white on the tip of the brush. And when I say tiny, I mean tiny. So where would we have a light trunk? Now, a light trunk against a white sky will look dark. It's just the way it is. However, if there's one that's just over the edge here, you might see just a little bit against the dark of the tree. That's how it works. So maybe there's a long, thin, spindly, new word, spindly, couple of trees just in there. Maybe one comes down to there. Yep, that's good. That's the one that comes across here, and also is growing from the grass at the base of the tree. Now, if you go too far, where I've got it at the moment, it's actually growing out of the patch of grass. I don't particularly want that at the moment. I want it to sit back, so I'm going to take off the bottom. Just take it to there, and suddenly now that tree's growing from the edge of the patch of grass. The reason I've done that is because I want to use a pale green, an unbelievably small amount of pale green. Sometimes it's not that easy. This has never been opened. This is a brand new tube, and that's where these things are wonderful. And it's just light green, that's all it is. It's, as they say, it does exactly what it says on the label. And I'm using the rigger for this because, well, it's got to get into quite a small space. So there's a bit of light catching the ground, and I want it to be sort of greener. So I'm going to make it greener. Okay. Just a few little bits of... There we are. I don't want to flood the whole painting with it. I just want to sort of just give people a little something to look at there. Right, now, and in fact that's all I'm going to put in there. Now you see I can increase the, I could have done it first of all, but I can make that pale little tree trunk actually grow in front of the wood rather than on the edge of the wood. So if I just get a little bit of white, and why not? Let's pull it down just a touch. If you want, when you're at this stage with a painting, by the way, quite often you can use your little finger, put that on the painting, like so. And maybe I should zoom back a bit. Right. So I'm using my finger as a brace, so that if I don't, you see, that's going to wobble. I can't keep still enough. If I put my finger here, just to hold my hand firm, I can do that. So now the tree is just this side of the woods. Good. One likes that. What else do what I could do, right, this might be interesting. You notice here, these are dark trunks, right, so maybe in front of some of the foliage below it, they might appear, and they would be light coloured, you know, maybe it's birch or something like that, who knows. But we could continue that tree, as it's on a dark background there, just gradually add light to it. Let's put it right down the bottom. Good. Now I'm going to cut it back a bit, but I'm also going to break it a bit. So where it starts to become lighter, I'm just going to sort of just put a few breaks. It's, you know, it's a tiny little thing really when you think about it, but it's it can add to a painting quite nicely. Do I want any more trunks, or shall I just leave it at that point? I think I'll leave it. Right, so the only other thing I'm going to do is the top part of the sky a little bit, and then I think we're done. Just a quickie. So just got to remind myself that this rigger needs to go to the kitchen, and you don't need to use any kind of solvent, just soap. So I'm going to put that where I won't forget it. Maybe I should stick it in my ear. I don't recommend that, by the way. Okay, so the sky. Quick look at the sky. Okay. Right, so you can pretty well see most of it. No, you can't see all of it yet. See why I use an editor? Get rid of all this stuff. But so far, there are no expletives. I mentioned the other day that I have to check my videos and take out the expletives. There aren't any, usually. I don't swear. I could, I suppose. But if I am going to swear, it's not usually about paintings. Okay, so ultramarine blue and royal blue, they mix quite well together. And all I want to do is fill up a few marks. Like here, I've got this sort of darkish blue, but I think I'm just going to sort of vary it a bit. I think there are a few places too where I pulled bristles out of the paint. So sometimes it's good to go over those and just sort of make sure you're filling up the groove that the bristle causes. There we are. So another way of looking at skies, so I've got dark at the top, tend to have dark at the top, getting lighter at the bottom. You don't have to have flat dark blue. You can have, you can make it varied, and it gives the appearance of very light clouds, so light that they just sort of stain the blue colour. It's much more interesting to look at too. Right, so up here, let's see, what are we going to do then? I think, right, I'll put some there. Okay, right, so same brush, no, different brush. All I'm going to do is put a bit of wind in the sky. So let's just do it. Okay, so now you notice something quite important. I'm not painting clouds, am I? I'm just putting white stuff on some blue. But I'm leading you across the painting. That's one of the tricks, you see. I really like it when people look at my paintings and say, I can see the clouds moving. That's always a compliment. Because one of the things you have to get in a painting is a sense of movement. You don't want anything static, you know. And how do you paint movement? Well, it's just, I don't know. I'll keep doing it, you keep watching, and maybe we'll figure it out at the same time, because I don't really know. I think it's something to do with sort of, swipe of the brush. The fact that it's done quickly rather than a hesitating movement. and that sort of transmits the feeling of wind. Right, so final bit of blurring. Maybe think of it as blurring. You see, I used to think of it as blending, but it's not really blending. This is not that. You cannot describe that cheapo brush as a blending brush. It's a I'm blurring, so I'm just losing the brush marks. Takes the edge off them. Somebody asked me if I would do a video showing varnishing. I will. It involves me getting the strength to get this monumental camera I've got here out into my garage. I can't varnish a painting in the house because my wife will keel over. I actually like the smell of varnish, but she doesn't like it. So not only do I go in the garage, but I have to warn her beforehand so that she shuts the window to her room where she teaches meditation and yoga and stuff. And if the smell of varnish wafts in the window, I don't want to hear a loud thud as she passes out. Okay, so I think I was born liking the smell of varnish. I actually, strangely enough, I always say to people, you know, avoid turpentine, but real genuine turpentine isn't a bad smell. I quite like it. It's these modern thinners that I don't like, and who knows what's in it. It can't be doing you any good. And even if it's the type that has no odour, you're still getting hit by the fumes. So, you know, who knows what that's doing. Okay, I think we're there. Right, so very quickly, I don't know how long the video is, but it doesn't really matter, does it? Yeah, if you want to come to a Zoom class, you know what to do. Link below if you want to come learn in France. I'm still not sure how much of that I'm going to do in the future, but at the moment, you know, I probably still will do a few more. But I just can't do, you know, one person one week, and another person the next week. It's just a little bit too much. I think I just want that there. But you never know, you might get lucky. So, but if you want a painting, and I'm not here, you know, people say, how can you give away a painting like this? Well, you just give it away. The thing is, when people are join my Patreon page and they contribute, you're keeping me alive. You're keeping my cat alive. That's my cat. If I find the video, but she'll be there if I find a little bit of video. What else? Yeah, if you pay €30 a month, you get 2 Zoom classes. A Zoom class is €30. You pay me €30 on Patreon, you get 2 classes. So you get 1 class free. You get to chat with me and all the other people afterwards, and it's a right to laugh, as we used to say in England. I don't know whether anyone says that anymore now, but there you go. Okay, so there we are. Another bit of blurring there. You may have noticed, I hope, in the last few videos that I actually keep out of the way a bit better. I've managed to master the ability to remember that I'm making a video. Okay, I think that's it. Anything else that I do to this will be done as a glaze in the future, but I think that's probably it. Okay, well, thanks for being here. Hope you've learned something. Hope you've enjoyed it. If you have liked it, please click the thumbs up button, and if you haven't subscribed, please hit the subscribe button. It doesn't cost you anything, but it's life-changing for the person who makes the video. The more people who look at my videos, the more YouTube, the algorithm recommends them to people, and the more revenue that the YouTuber makes from advertising. And I know the adverts can be a nuisance, but they are there to pay the creator, and it's a pittance. Okay, so yeah, as I said, thanks for being here. Look after yourselves, and bye for now.